Hello and a very warm welcome back to our final session of the day. What a busy morning it's been. And still with me on the sofa, poor guy, is Patrick.
Not poor guy. I'm enjoying this. Hasn't
it? It's been an absolutely great day so far, hasn't it? So insightful. But over the years, you've really seen this progression, haven't you, of all the DAB markets. Do you think you've seen the progression speeding up recently?
Well, that's a really good question. And I was trying to think of the answer, and I think there is an element of speeding, but actually it's more a question of more. So there's more countries are having digital radio, having DAB and DAB+, and so every week we will have a news story which and for example in Germany, you mentioned one thing this morning, but there are so many things happening in Germany. Similarly in France, we have the headline about the national services, but all the time there's other local services that are being launched. And it's that cumulative effect that really is, that's what's giving the impression of activity. So is it getting faster? I think we're getting more. OK, brilliant. So we're spreading. Yes, we are absolutely spreading. Yeah.
Well, Patrick, thank you. And it is really interesting to see the progression. And we will be doing a bit of a Q&A towards the end. And actually, that is a reminder for everyone at home. This is your last chance. Get those questions in, and we will get to them at the end of this session. Now, new to the summit, but maybe not new to some of you, we now have the new head of radio for EBU, Edita Kudlacova, giving her thoughts on the future of radio.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. So as you've heard, my name is Edita Kudlacova, and I joined the EBU as the head of radio just in the spring of this year. So I have been here for a couple of months now. And actually those past couple of months, we worked very closely with my colleagues here at the EBU on a report focusing on platforms run by our members, by the radio broadcasters. We did not ask that much about the relationship with the third-party platforms because we wanted to understand what is our own strategy, what we actually do with our own services, and where do we see our own future going. These strategies vary, but there are some of the things that are shared, and I'd like to share them with you today as well. Generally, radio listening is still very strong. Listeners may not understand all our technical discussions, but that we tend to have among ourselves actually, but they do keep listening to their favorite radio station, even if the device moves from the internet to DAB+ to FM based on the connection that they might have at their disposal at that moment. Sometimes they may not even notice what platform they listen on as long as it's playing. Radio remains one of the most trusted medium, which is in the context of fake news and misinformation, an important role that we need to sustain in the future as well. Radio was among the top go-to sources for reliable and trustworthy curated information during the spring of 2020. Listening numbers of many news stations, radio stations, hit new peaks over the last 2 years, and it will be very interesting to observe what we actually do with these numbers, if we are able to preserve some of them, at least a percentage of the new audience that we attracted or not. Spoken word and audio news being the prime content listeners were tuning into, but music did not lag behind that much either. Live radio is and will be for quite some time the main activity of what we do, but at the same time, we also need to drive the consumption of podcasts, short-form audio, and other formats. The experience of the past months speeded up digital transition like never before. Today, radio can be a great and personalized media experience that you can share with your close ones too, with your friends, with your family. Modern radio comes with interactive functions, subscription models, exclusive content, recommendation possibilities, and many other features. And it's also a great tool for visual detox, especially after the past 2 years spending at home. Many more broadcasters are implementing something that we actually like to call a multi-platform strategy that's embracing more than just one app or just DAB+ versus FM. Its live radio is still at its core, but we want the listener to have a good user experience with our content, and we need to think about the complete journey through our services. This multi-platform simply includes all forms of distribution. For me, moving to DAB+ is too important for the industry to ignore it, including well-targeted news services and a good curated offer. And I will also strengthen that being mindful about the climate challenges we are facing today, DAB Plus will offer and is offering us more sustainable way to broadcast. And I think that should be a matter of not a choice, but perhaps our responsibility to choose such a option. Audience expects radio to be in the car. They don't even question this. And we have just heard a very interesting session focusing on this topic, so I'll not go into too much detail here, but I think it's too important not to mention it at all. Securing our presence in cars seems essential for our industry. And it is especially an existential question for many European countries where radio listening enjoys a great popularity, especially while driving. With my colleagues from the technical department, we like to refer to the whole ecosystem of as radio over connected devices, and car being one of the connected device too. The in-car entertainment system is becoming very attractive as we see more cars being connected to the internet. Platforms are comfortably inserting themselves between ourselves and our listeners, and this has a growing impact on our model of operating as we were used to. We may lose direct relationship with our listeners, help them navigate through our offer, get relevant data about our content. And the same situation may come from the voice-activated devices. With less and less radio receivers being sold, there is an expectancy that the voice-activated devices will perhaps be the main tool to listen to radio via the internet. I wanted to outline all these points because I wanted to say one thing. There is a lot that we need to do, and we need to work on proactively. And as we have just said, Patrick saying that unless we are active today also with the deployment of DAB+, we may lose one important thing over time. Our broadcast network, as we used to know it, provided us some safe space. It was your free-to-air content, it was a good regulated media environment, but it was also the trusted source of information. And I think that this is something that we need to reflect in our multi-platform strategy, in our collaboration across the industry, in our attitude towards innovation, and also in our attitude towards working with all the other platforms on the market. So if our focus gets one-sided, if we turn into becoming, then we may actually turn into becoming content producers with our content being in the hands of the others. And sometimes I had a feeling in the past that we perhaps tended also to spend quite a lot of time discussing and questioning ourselves rather than doing or trying. And this was sometimes connected with the deployment of the DAB+ as well, especially in certain markets. So I think that the more fragmented our audience grows, the more flexible, fast, and innovative we need to be. And this goes beyond the technical distribution. It of course has to include the content, the production workflow, the overall strategy of what we do, how we want to do it, and where do we actually want to go towards in the coming years. The ultimate goal for all of us is of course the same. Listeners should get what they want, and our job is to make sure that this happens. So now I'm very happy and honored that I can open with this short keynote a session on DAB+ emerging markets, countries where the discussion on DAB+ and other platforms perhaps tended to be tabled because of resources or because of legislation or investment. But seeing this region move ahead, speaking with my colleagues in the Czech Republic or in Poland or in Croatia about their new DAB services, their plans to continue with the strong promotion campaigns, that really brings me joy, and I cannot wait to hear more in a second. So I hope you'll all enjoy the session as much as I will now.
Well, thank you very much to Edita there, and welcome to the world of DAB+. And I think it's really interesting to hear that clear vision. And of course, we welcome another radio champion into our fold. So welcome. Now, the next stop is Eastern Europe. And first, we're actually revisiting the Czech Republic with Karel Zyka, Technical and Administration Director and Head of DAB Switchover.
Hello, good afternoon, dear guests. Let me share with you some significant achievements that we have recently reached in the field of DAB in the Czech Republic, especially from the point of view of the public service Czech Radio, which acts as a DAB pioneer in our country. I can divide them into 5 areas. The first one is legislation. Just a few days ago, a set of several media laws came into force, which significantly moved the development of DAB+ forward. The legislation allocated the final permanent DAB Plus multiplex to public service broadcasting, which is Czech Radio. It also allowed the relevant national authority to start allocating permanent licenses to private network operators and to extend DAB access to commercial broadcasters. Until then, DAB Plus was operated in the Czech Republic only on a pilot basis from the legal point of view. Another important part of this legislation is the application of the European Electronic Communication Code, which makes DAB Plus receivers mandatory in cars. The second area is coverage. DAB Plus coverage reaches 95% of Czech population, which is a very high number. As you can see, the entire road network is very well covered. Further improvements are now planned in densely populated areas that require a higher intensity of electromagnetic field. Therefore, next year we are going to launch a number of additional city transmitters. We also expect a fast development of other DAB Plus networks for private broadcasters. The third area is content. All 24 Czech radio stations, 10 nationwide and 14 regional, broadcast in DAB+. 7 of them are only available digitally, the red ones on the screen. This year we launched 2 completely new digital-only nationwide stations. A sports station, as you can see here, and a radio station for senior listeners, as you can see here. And another area is receiver penetration. According to GfK's long-term research for WorldDAB, the sales of DAB Plus receivers in the Czech Republic have been growing by more than 100% every year since 2017. Thanks to this, the Czech Republic is the fastest growing DAB market in Europe. The share of DAB Plus receivers sold is constantly increasing compared to analog ones. Each 5th receiver sold in Czech Republic is now a DAB Plus receiver. There is a wide range of such receivers on the market and the prices are very affordable. The last area I want to talk about is marketing. There were several stages of a massive marketing campaign supporting DAB Plus in our country. The slogan of the campaign is "The Age of DAB," and the main message is "Replace the old one with the new one." Here are some examples and some more here. The current campaign is focused on the switching off of the AM platform at the end of this year, which is a significant milestone. Czech Radio still operates 2 medium wave channels and 1 long wave channel. The budget we save will be used for the further development of DAB+. Thank you for your attention.
Well, thank you, Karel. Really, really interesting to hear that. And I think you are actually going to be one of the very few people who hold or will hold the title Head of DAB Switchover. Very exciting times indeed, and thank you once again for your presentation and to hear the future plans of the Czech Republic. So now it's time to move across to Poland with Krystyna Roslan-Kuhn. She's an expert in the National Broadcasting Council. Now, Poland recently actually confirmed their legislation for the EECC. So let's hear from them on this and other DAB Plus developments. Now, Krystyna, I don't know if you can hear me, but I think you might be muted. And we would love to be able to hear you loud and clearly. So we might have to take the beginning of your presentation again, if that's all right. Always tricky getting set up at the beginning of these calls, aren't they? Never straightforward. Right, let's do a take two. Over to you, Krystyna.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon. Once more. Today, I'm more optimistic than 10 years ago in Brussels, because digital radio in Poland is moving along slowly but continuously. Sorry. Problem with my, okay. First of all, the public service broadcaster in Poland. After almost 5 years of stagnation, the public multiplex R3 noted progress. 17 transmitters, is a mistake in the screen, have been put into operation. Coverage of population increased to 77.1%. The program offer increased as well. 9 national services, 4 in simulcast, 5 in digital only, including the last one launched years ago, the radio for drivers. Regionally, 17 services in simulcast and 8 only digital ones. More ambitious regional stations produce the specialized content as culture, folk music, sports, and others. Sorry, but my phone. The plans for the future. First, extension of coverage to approximately 80% in 2022, mainly along highways, the main roads, as well as the biggest cities. And completing the capacity of national part of multiplex R3 with new service. Call for tender for network operators started 2 weeks ago, and extended network will be probably operational in spring 2022. Its 80% of coverage will be a good point to start with serious intensive promotion campaign. Last October, because of the first anniversary of Radio for Drivers, Polish Radio organized short models campaign on air. It was interviews, discussions about DAB+. I have problem with my mobile phone because sorry, could you change my slides by hand now? Because I have the problem with my telephone.
Not a problem, Krystyna. Yeah, we can do the slides for you. You just tell us when you want us to move on to the next slide.
Could you come back to the slides, slide number 5, please? It's the slide number 5. Thank you very much. I have the problem with my mobile phone.
No problem. We've got a full technical team here on hand to help.
Okay.
So we thank you for being with us.
Now the not public sector story. As the winners of the competition, two network operators received issues by the president of the Electronic Communication Office the frequency reservations for 7 local multiplexes. About 25 new radio services will be available around the country. They are in the phase of preparation, and it is expected the first 4 multiplex will be operational by the end of this year. The National Broadcasting Council intends to begin soon the license procedure for next 7 or 8 local multiplexes. The next, please. Next, please. Next slide. Oh no, back, please. Oh, okay. The interest in DAB+ on the part of small local broadcasters, as well as those delivering content by internet, is real huge. Pending new license competitions, they use the possibility of test transmissions. There are 9 transmissions of this kind running by 4 network operators with more than 45 services available. Test transmissions, independently of its technical value, are a good opportunity to non-official DAB+ promotion. The next, please. What about the biggest national broadcasters? The strategy of the National Broadcasting Council contains the preferable use of frequency resources from Geneva 06. Multiplex 1 for non-public nationwide services. Multiplex 2 for regional and sub-regional non-public services. Multiplex 3 for public, national, and regional programs. The biggest radio group are still reluctant and not interested in DAB+, but without them, it will be not possible to build the real digital radio market. So the National Broadcasting Council intends to announce very soon the license procedure for multiplex R1 and enforce them to take their decision, go to digital or not. The next one, please. In 2015, the National Broadcasting Council decided to use one layer in the band VHF for television broadcast. It was in harmony with the Geneva plan, one layer for TV, 3 layers for digital radio. But a year ago, a group of experts in the National Broadcasting Council prepared a document about the DAB frequencies availability and possibility of transition from analog to digital for Polish regional and local radio services. The conclusion was that the available resources are not sufficient for needs of existing broadcasters. Moreover, the offer of new digital services will be very limited. The only one solution could be regaining the frequencies of the band VHF. There is the chance now, because of transition from DVB-T to DVB-T2 planned in Poland next year, and the possibility to launch the new TV multiplexes in the VHF band, in the UHF band. So it's possible to remove the services from VHF to UHF, the TV services. Next one, please. The National Broadcasting Council supported this idea very much. the broadcasters are in favor of this. But the main problem now is to receive the agreement on the part of the network operator, because they invested in the network 5 years ago. But the main idea is VHF for radio, UHF for TV. We gain this, in this case, we gain 2 new radio multiplexes and the possibility to optimize digital networks of DAB+ in the whole country. Please cross your finger for successful action in this matter. Thank you very much.
Krystyna, we are here in the studio crossing our fingers for you. Thank you for that, and obviously thank you to Krystyna and actually all of our speakers and everyone at home as well for bearing with us with a few technical issues along the way. Of course, turning a big event into a virtual one always comes with a few hiccups along the way. But fascinating to hear that, because Poland really is one of the countries leading the way in digital radio. And we do salute you, Krystyna, for your perseverance and wish you well in the coming year. It's interesting, isn't it, to hear the way that other countries are doing things and what we can learn from them as well.
No, for sure. I mean, it particularly in this region, Czech Republic and Poland, we've been talking to them for many, many years. And Krystyna mentioned, you know, some of the challenges, particularly with the larger private broadcasters, you know, who've got a very strong position in their market. And you know, they are, as you said, they are reluctant to embrace DAB and DAB+. The thing is that other countries have faced exactly the same situation. And France, I mean, if I go back 10 years ago, and you know, there was an organisation whose purpose was to stop DAB+. Right. But in the end, through a mixture of carrot and stick, the opportunities that DAB+ creates, you know, the extra stations, making it a more compelling proposition for the listeners on the one hand, plus regulatory incentives, you can make it worth the while for the commercial broadcasters. And that's one of the challenges that Krystyna faces. I mean, Krystyna is a great champion, as you gather, a great champion of DAB+ in Poland. But getting those private broadcasters on board, that's really the key to success.
That is the challenge. Well, good luck, Krystyna, and thank you again. So I think now it is time to hear from Croatia. It's actually one of our final discussions today from Tigran Vržina, the Chief Technical Advisor at OIV.
Thank you, Nikki, for introduction. Good afternoon to all. I'm very glad to be here today and to have the opportunity to briefly introduce you to the status of DAB+ radio in Croatia. First, a few words about OIV. OIV is a state-owned company formed in 2002 by separation from public national broadcasting company HRT, with long-term experience in radio and television broadcasting. That is our core business. This year we celebrated 95 years of radio and 65 years of television broadcasting. We employ around 300 people, of whom more than 50% have university degrees. We adopted the ICO quality systems and the business security certificate. The vision of OIV is to be one of the leading network and service operators in the region in the area of terrestrial and satellite broadcasting, telecommunications, transmission, capacity services, wholesale of multimedia services, collocation services, engineering, installation, and maintenance. OIV is a WorldDAB member from 2018. OIV initiated DAB+ radio broadcasting in Croatia, starting with the test transmission in November 2017 from 4 locations. With cooperation and support of national regulatory agencies, the trial continued year over year, and we are now near the end of the fourth year. With 8 transmitting locations in the operation, the national coverage is 88% of the population for mobile audio reception, while for portable interception coverage is 53% of the population. Highways are covered by 67%. The number of radio programs broadcasted in the test DAB+ multiplex changed over the years. Today, 12 programs are transmitted, of which 2 are digital only. That means they are not transmitted in FM. Following a public tender, Croatian Regulatory Authority for Network Industries, HACOM, has granted OIV license to use the radio frequency spectrum to provide the service of managing the electronic communications network of digital radio DAB+. The license was issued for the multiplex MAX 1 in the territory of the Republic of Croatia for a period of 15 years. In addition to programs with national coverage, regional program can also be broadcast in the multiplex, considering that the territory of Croatia is divided into 6 digital regions. Regular transmission will begin on 16th November 2021, and in the first phase, the DAB+ MUX 1 network will consist of all 8 transmitting locations that now transmit the DAB+ test signal and 2 additional locations that will be ready for operation by then. In some locations, it will be necessary to change frequencies in accordance with the new license. With this network expansion, national coverage will rise to more than 90% of the population for mobile audio reception, more than 55% of population for portable indoor, and on highways to 76%. Also, more than 77% of the population will be covered in each region, considering mobile audio reception. During next year, OIV plans to add new 16 transmitting locations in the network. From 16th November 2022, DAB+ network in Croatia will consist of 26 locations in the operation that will significantly increase the coverage. For mobile audio to more than 96%, for portable indoor to more than 61%, and for highways to 93%. Before that, by the end of this year, the procedure for granting broadcasting rights in the DAB+ multiplex for radio programs must be carried out by the Agency for Electronic Media. Regarding activities we have undertaken and we will do, in April this year, in cooperation with the Croatian Vehicle Center, OIV conducted a survey on the number of DAB+ receivers in vehicles. Almost 9,000 vehicles manufactured from 2014 to 2020 were inspected at technical inspection stations throughout Croatia. And the results of the research showed a 30.4% share of vehicles with a DAB+ receiver. Based on this survey and data on the sale of new and import of used vehicles, projections were made on the total number of vehicles with DAB+ receivers in the coming years. This year 10%, and in 5 years more than a third of vehicles in Croatia will have a DAB+ receiver. These are promising data, and OIV will continue this research and seek to obtain data on the number of DAB+ home receivers, which are lacking today. OIV actively prepares a marketing campaign for DAB+, which should initiate by the end of November. This campaign will be divided into several phases, and it will be primarily focused on two crucial target groups: radio broadcasters and listeners. Intention is to present the DAB+ digital radio as a radio for today and for the future, and with the purpose of accomplishing the following aims: raising awareness of popularization of the DAB+ platform, emphasizing all the benefits of this service, education of target groups and the public as a whole, provoking a reaction and response. During the first phase, communication channels will be focused to the billboards and digital screens right next to the roads, since a major part of the target group actively participates in traffic. In addition, radio, social media, YouTube will also be included. And finally, as a conclusion, we believe that DAB+ radio is here to stay. Thank you.
Well, Tigran, thank you very much indeed. Wow, what a whistle-stop tour around Central and Eastern Europe that was. And I must say a big thank you to all of our speakers, including Tigran, there with that really fascinating insight into what they have been doing in Croatia. Now, to round up not just this session, but the day, we've received a few questions from you guys at home, for our speakers, of course. So let's go through some of those now. Hopefully we're going to have Edita joining us up on screen any second. And this is a question for you. There we are. Edita, EBU touches a wide variety of different parts of the radio industry. What will you and your team be focusing on over the next 12 months?
Yes, we actually started with it. As I have said, we wanted to map and to see what we are doing as members, what radio stations are doing, because I felt that we spent a lot of time discussing how to respond to third-party platforms, how to respond to the industry itself. But I think it's about the time that we actually revise, do we have a strategy? Do we go for some common goal? Do we have, like aligned and coordinated discussion, for example, on the radio in car? This is something that we discuss very closely with our colleagues from the technology and innovation team, as well as the digital unit. So that is one area where we will be quite active. And the other one, I feel and I believe that we have to bring back also the discussion on content. And as I've said, we are speaking multi-platform, so it's not just DAB+, it's not just online, it's not just FM or whatever offer you've got. But I think we have to speak about and learn from whatever content works in every country. Because my feeling is that as we see the digital platforms turning into content producers, and they are turning more and more towards something like the creators platform and not just the distribution platform, that we may be losing that discussion on the content. And that is something that I'd like to capture and just, be coordinated well across the European radio stations.
Yeah, brilliant, Edita. Thank you very much. Well, a busy 12 months ahead, that's for sure. Karel, this is a question for you. I mean, you've clearly learned some of the best lessons, I think, from other markets with your planning and implementation of DAB. Does that mean you're going to start a marketing campaign targeting the auto sector?
Yes, the automotive sector is the core of our next target, because now, as I already said, the today target is to switch off AM platform, which is very expensive for us, and we need those money for DAB+. But we cooperate with automotive industry for the whole this DAB journey. We have very known car producer Skoda in our country, and they even started with DAB+, with the standard before the EECC law became into force. So this cooperation is not only with Skoda, but is all other producers in our country or importers. So yes, it is also connected with special devices you can use in car, which are not equipped with DAB+ as a set, something like set-top box or very similar. So yeah, it is very important for us. And we, the last sentence I want to say is that our coverage was built with this target. The first target was to cover roads and highway because of automotive industry and cars.
Yeah, really, really interesting there, Karel. Thank you very much. Question here coming up for Tigran. This is for you. Obviously, you're going to be very busy over the coming weeks. Is everything going to be on schedule?
Yeah, yes, pretty much. From technical part, yes. But okay, we, as I said in my presentation, wait for Agency of Electronic Media to announce public or tender for granting a license for radio broadcasters for the programs to be transmitted in a multiplex. So we expect that everything will be okay.
Excellent. That's what we like to hear. We didn't doubt you for 1 second. Tigran, there's another question for you actually, and that is, what interest do you expect for DAB plus regular and commercial transmission? And also, if you could explain a little bit better about what national regional multiplex in Croatia actually means.
Yeah, okay. As I mentioned, Croatia is divided in 6 digital regions by our regulator. So we can transmit in the multiplex national programs which will be transmitted in all regions, and also in each region separate programs which will be only for that region. Price for radio stations is forward according to the population coverage, meaning a small region is cheaper, a larger region or 2 regions together is higher priced, and the national coverage is of course the most expensive. Regarding interest of broadcasters, it's hard to say. During the test period, we had a solid interest. You know, we now have 12 programs in the multiplex, but broadcasters were paying a small amount only to cover costs of license fee and electricity consumption. All other expenses were at IV account. In commercial work, price is significantly higher, so we will see the real interest when the Agency of Electronic Media conducts the procedure for granting broadcasting rights in the DAB+ multiplex.
Yeah.
By the way, agency made a survey a few weeks ago, and the interest of broadcasters was still solid.
Right.
Yeah, so we expect, we shall see. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Tigran, for answering that question for us. Patrick, we've actually got a question for you. This is from Marius Skadutis, and I believe probably from the Baltics, because this is a question about giving advice to countries like the Baltics. They've had a few failed attempts to start with DAB broadcast. So what advice would you give to really encourage radios to start broadcasting in DAB? Of course, if particularly those that are afraid to take on additional costs initially.
Well, there's two key components to this. The first is the policy and regulatory framework. So you need to have that right policy framework in place, and that involves, you know, if you're a broadcaster, you need to talk to the media regulator in your country. You need to talk to the relevant government departments, and then you also need to build an alliance of the different broadcasters. If you're one broadcaster who's interested in it, it's going to be very difficult. But if you build a collaborative group, then you've got a voice, and you can take that to the regulator, you can take it to the government. So that's the first thing. You have to have that in place. And then the question is, okay, well, we want to do it. And then the question is, how do we do it? And I'm sure you were paying attention. We had the 5 Cs earlier on, which is the template for launching. So you need to have sufficient coverage. And so one of the questions is, well, where, because it's expensive to build transmitters, so where are you going to prioritise? And typically, we say the major cities and the major road networks. You need to have a good content proposition. What are the new services you're going to be offering? Cars. Well, look, the good news, if you're in the EU, all new cars now come with DAB as standard, so that's much easier. Then you've got consumer devices. Well, there are literally hundreds of different models available, so just make sure that they're coming into your country. And then finally, marketing, there's communications, that's the 5th C. My favourite one that Karel has heard from me before is the Czech marketing campaign. And I was driving down to the beach 2 or 3 years ago, and there was a Czech tourist bus on the motorway in front of me, and I made my wife lean out of the car and take a picture of the advertisement on the back of the on the Czech bus.
Brilliant.
So that is the sort of thing you need. So it's the 5 Cs: the policy and regulation, and then the 5 Cs.
Excellent, some brilliant advice there, and I can see everyone nodding their head in agreement, which is always good, isn't it, Patrick? We're actually going to say a big thank you and goodbye to our panellists from today. Edita, Karel, Tigran, it's been an absolute pleasure to hear from you, so thank you very much indeed. Now, actually, Patrick, before you go, you're not off the hook yet. You've still got a few more questions to answer.
Okay.
This is actually one from a little bit earlier today from Richard Buckle, and he would like to know, how is DAB Plus being implemented and what's the take-up outside of Europe and Australia?
Outside of Europe and Australia. Well, we are in the early stages, I think is probably how I would summarise it. Funnily enough, where we're seeing the greatest sort of real action is North Africa, so Tunisia. So they have launched. We've also got services on air in several of the Middle Eastern countries in the Gulf states. Algeria is about to start. South Africa have been running trials for the last 3 or 4 years. So Africa, they're sort of on the starting blocks, I would say. And then when we go to Asia Pacific, I mentioned some of the countries that we were targeting. Thailand, they've been doing trials for a number of years. Similarly, Vietnam have been doing trials. Malaysia are doing the regulator is doing a consultation at the minute. And Indonesia, they have been doing trials. They've been doing trials for quite a long time. So there are countries there that are dipping the toes in the water, and one of the things that, because we haven't been able, particularly for the Asia Pacific region, because we haven't been able to travel, so much of the way the business is done there is through face-to-face contacts. So as soon as the restrictions lift, then we will be marching back in. We will be talking to our friends in those countries.
We knew what you meant.
Yes, exactly.
Brilliant. So the expansion continues, which is wonderful to hear.
Exactly.
We've got a question from Switzerland, Oliver Shepp, and he would like to know, so DAB has had some problems compared to FM or MWLW signal. Have you got any comments on that? Is there anything they should be doing?
I'm not sure what problems he's talking about.
Signal indoor penetration and battery life in particular.
Okay. Well, actually, it's a lot better than it was. I mean, I think if we'd had this conversation 5 years ago, and I can talk with sort of greater confidence about the UK. So the UK, I think it was 7 years ago, about 7 years ago, there were about 400 transmitters, and that number got doubled. So one of the key things to do is just to double, is to make sure that the coverage is everywhere, and there will be some black spots. So you fill those black spots in. The important thing is not to be in denial about the fact that there is more to be done, and identify where their issues are. I mean, tunnels is a classic area. Which needs to be, you need to have the transmitters in there. If they're not in there, you won't be able to get the reception. So identify where the problems are, and then we'll find technical solutions to solve them.
Brilliant. Well, hopefully, Oliver, that answers your question. And I can't believe I'm going to say it, but we're coming to the end.
No, surely not.
Thank you so much again for answering all of our questions, Patrick. It's been really, really insightful. I can't believe it. The end of WorldDAB Summit 2021. I mean, there's been an absolute wealth of information, insights, of course, the results of research that's come out today, and so much more. Now, if you did miss anything, do not worry, because of course we're going to be sending out an event summary with presentations attached, and also there will be a link to watch the whole thing again on Catch Up if you like. So thank you so much for joining us all around the world. It's been an absolutely fantastic event. Do remember to follow us on social for all the latest news from the world of digital radio, and also sign up to our newsletters so that you don't miss anything. All the details of that can be found on our website, worlddab.org. And finally, just massive thank you again to our sponsors, Digidia, Gates Air, Panida and Radio Player. So huge thank you. And also, if you would like to add a voice to some of the conversations that we've had today, then get in touch with WorldDAB Project Office and do become a member. Thank you so much. That is the end of WorldDAB Summit 2021. Hopefully next year we're going to meet face to face. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you then.